G'day everyone, welcome back to the Hobby Hatch. In this episode we'll be creating a Wild Western themed Warhammer diorama. As you've already probably spotted from the intro, our story will be looking into the heroic showdown between the ruthless outlaw, the Wrangla, his large and in-charge squig mincemeat, and the Lone Ranger with his trusty cyberhorse Silver as they battle it out for supremacy of the toxic wasteland they all call home. To make the base, I cut down some MDF board and glued some old packing foam to the top using PVA glue. Next, I want there to be a dilapidated building on one side of the diorama, and to make this, I layered some broken up coffee stir sticks over a polystyrene foam core. I found it was really useful to add a layer of masking tape to keep the stir sticks held down, while I built up each of the panels. Once each panel was situated, I locked everything in place with PVA glue. I then moved back to the base, to which I added a mixture of plaster, Mod Podge and paint to cover up any texture from the foam, and to add an uneven surface that'll act as a natural looking ground layer to work upon. While the plaster mix was still wet, I squished the building down to lock it in place. Then, to add a fine sandy ground texture, I added a layer of PVA glue, then dusted fine grout over the entire surface. So onto the mini painting. I started with this squig model I printed on my Anycubic Photon Mono X. We'll call him Mincemeat. I first layered down a dark red base coat of Corn Red by Citadel Paints over the entire model. Then, using Evil Sun's Scarlet, I added some highlight volumes, focusing on the top right hand side of the model to show where the light source for this model will be coming in from. I then hit the entire model with a dry brush of Wild Rider Red, catch all the raised detail. Next, I moved on to painting the tongue by first coating it with Warlord Purple by Vallejo. Then I highlighted all the raised areas that caught the light with Squid Pink, and blended that into the Warboss Purple undercoat for a smoother finish. Then I moved on to painting the gums, first painting a base coat of Mephiston Red, and using a light mixture of Squid Pink and Mephiston Red, I added the highlights. The teeth got a quick coat of Morghast Bone, which was highlighted with Screaming Skull, and then washed with a coat of Agrax Earthshade to show the recesses of the teeth, and to give them a grimier appearance. I then painted in the last few details such as the eyes and the spots on its head. And lastly, a gloss varnish to the gums and tongue to give them a sufficiently slobbery appearance. Next, we'll move on to painting the Lone Ranger and his chromed up cyber steed Silver. To keep the colour palette consistent, I used the same general colours and techniques to paint them both. First, I painted all the cloth with a base layer of Ahriman Blue and added light volumes with Lothern Blue through the airbrush. I then finished the cloth with a dry brushing of Baroth Blue. Next, I base coated all the metal components with Hessian Grey and finished by dry brushing with Vallejo Model Air Steel. All the metals then got a quick wash with Nuln Oil. All of the leathers got a base coat of Rhinox hide. Which is then highlighted with Mournfang Brown up to Baneblade Brown for the brightest highlight. I then painted the little extra details such as the hazard stripe conduit and lights on the ranger's backpack, and the hair, purity seals and eyes on the cyber horse. For the ranger's axe, rather than leave it as a bare metal colour, I painted in bright reds, yellows and oranges to give off the effect that it was glowing red hot. To finish off the ranger, I airbrushed a layer of white ink onto his faceplate and arms, which I then tinted with Yanden yellow contrast paint. This was finished by giving each eye lens a spot of white paint that was then covered with a glaze of fluorescent yellow paint. And after all that, here they both are. For the final character, the Wrangla, I first base coated his skin with Forest Green by Vallejo and highlighted it with Warboss Green by Citadel Colour. The metals and leather then got the same treatment as the Lone Ranger and Silver. And his shirt was painted with Baylor Brown and his pants corn red. I then went through and painted all the little details like the rope on his back and the bullets hanging from his bandolier.
Thank you.
Finally, I wanted the skin to have more contrast between its brightest and darkest points, so I mixed up Warboss Green and an ivory off-white colour and highlighted the areas that needed an extra kick. The last step for these models was to add some battle effect. For this I 3D printed muzzle flash ricochet effects designed by Deadly Print Studio, which I added to the Wrangler's gun and shoulder armour. To paint these, I first put down a solid layer of white, which I then sprayed over with fluorescent yellow paint through the airbrush. I then retouched the white in the deeper recesses of the effect and blended fluoro orange on the furthest parts from the centre. I then began adding the OSL lighting effects on the surrounding parts of the model. I then repeated these steps for the muzzle flash. I then also did a slightly smaller version for the Lone Ranger's revolver. The last steps for this diorama were to add some rocky outcrops of the terrain using cork, as well as some coarser texture by sprinkling fine gravel over some brushed on PVA glue. This was all glued in place using isopropyl alcohol sprayed over the surface and watered down PVA glue. The isopropyl alcohol helps break up the surface tension of the water glue mix so it can seep down into the gravel and lock it all in place. Once this had dried, I took it outside and primed it black. I then base coated all of the ground cover with a dark reddy brown colour through the airbrush. From here, I dry brush the entire ground surface with a light orange. Next, I painted the wooden shack by first coating the entire thing in Rhinox hide and then spraying Baylor brown over each panel, ensuring that the darker brown undercoat was visible towards the lower areas of the building. Everything got a final dry brush of Baylor brown to catch some of the sharper edges. And with that done, I glued down some extra details, followed by the characters. Grass tufts were then added to break up some of the bare open ground areas. Then, to tie everything together, I dusted a light rusty orange pigment over the terrain and feet of each of the models. With all that complete, all that was left was to paint the rim of the base black, and it was ready for the glamour shots. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. As always, if you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe for more content. It really helps the channel grow. I want to extend an extra special thank you to everyone who tuned in and supported the last video. It was absolutely mind-blowing the amount of people who left such kind comments and feedback. So to all of you, thank you so much. Thanks again for stopping by, everyone. I hope you have a happy and safe time over this holiday season. I'll see you in the next one.